This is the concierge, sir.
Hello, everybody, and Happy New Year. This is Brian, your host of Concierge Confidential. It is a new year. Thank you so much for bearing with us. We didn't have a new episode during the week of New Year's, but hopefully doing an episode surrounding New Year's right before New Year's was good enough for you guys. If not, who cares? We're on to the new year. So I just want to say hi to everybody. So welcome back. Our episode today is going to focus on looking forward to 2026 and trying to figure out, what trends are going to be happening this year. A couple of things that I think might happen in the year. We're going to have a review of a place that I went to over the weekend. Some thoughts, and then kind of what I want to do with the pod going forward for the next year. It's nothing groundbreaking, but maybe a return to what we, used to do when we first started the pod. So hopefully you guys enjoy our looking forward for 2026. Okay, guys. So by the way, it was raining right before this. I had no idea because my back is to the window, but it was raining on this evening. So when I was recording this, but with that being said, we are going to have a new video out. Haven't done a lot of new videos, but we are going to try doing more. So that's the first thing I want to sort of tackle, is that we're going to try to be a little bit more active on socials. I know last year I kind of took a break from posting. I think it was more like a mental thing, because last year a lot of Vegas influencers were kind of flooding the zone. And I wouldn't say that I'm trying to be a Vegas influencer per se. I like coming on the pod, and I think podcasters are completely different than just people who are on Instagram just posting promotional videos for openings of restaurants. Although that'd be cool. If any hotels or restaurants want to invite me, that'd be sick. But I kind of got inundated with so much of it that I kind of didn't want to do it. And then also a lot of stuff happening at my job that I had to do a lot more responsibility over there in terms of posting on their own social channels. So it was kind of a lot on me. So I had to kind of cut out a part of the pod that I really like doing, is actually doing the video edits. And I've actually learned how to edit faster, which is actually awesome. Which I was always a fast editor, but it was more the system that I was working with didn't work fast enough and it would take forever. And I've kind of streamlined that to where it's a more enjoyable process where I get to fiddle around a little bit more with a video. So we're going to try to do more videos. And with that being said, I kind of stopped going to new places last year. I really only had certain days off that I really wanted to go to places that I really enjoyed. That's why you guys hear me go to Delilah's so often, because I have one night out that I really want to have a good time, and that's where I have the absolute best time. It's my favorite place because I know most people there, so it's fun for me. So unfortunately, you guys had to suffer that by having to have me just relax, essentially. But this year, I do want to make it a point to try new places a lot more frequently and share it with you guys. Important things to note is that when I go out, I do pay for all the things that I eat. So a lot of the stuff that you guys see from other Instagram people, they usually go out on influencer days or media days where they just bring out a bunch of food. And I've actually been to one or two of those, and they absolutely suck. They are not fun. Just a peek inside of the world of what that looks like. So I was invited by a friend who works in local TV, and we went, and it was really fun with them and hanging out. And this was a local place that I think is not even open anymore. And we went, and it was weird. Everyone was getting really jacked up to see Las Vegas Phil, who was honestly, I know people who know him might say he's a really nice person and this person's amazing. Oh my God, they're so nice, because that's how people act when they're fake friends with people. I know I was a concierge. I had a lot of fake friends. It happens. But he sort of acted like he was the god amongst all of these Vegas influencers. It was oh my God, it's Vegas. It's I'm not here to trash him, but it was relax. But other than that, the people that were there when they would bring the food out, it was just like all the lights, all the cameras came out, like, you know, the phones, the light, the like personal lights that like light up the thing. Which I have to say, the lights do make the food look better. The like separate lights from the one on your phone does make the food look better on camera for sure. But it was one of those things like where you're not actually getting the experience of the restaurant, which that is what I want to do. I want to go in as somebody that nobody knows. So like none of the hostesses, none of the people that are there. When I'm giving a review, I like to get the experience that you guys would get going into the restaurant. Obviously, there's exceptions. There's places that I like to go to, like Delilah's, like I mentioned earlier. Nocturno, which is a local place where I go to quite frequently, where I hate when I say I know the owner, but, you know, I'm friendly with them because I've known them through a personal relationship and then just, you know, seeing them. So that's more of like, yes, like I do know them and it's kind of nice to be treated, you know, a little differently when I'm there. But when I'm going to review a place, like seriously, I like to go under the guise of like, I'm a normal person. Because that's how they're going to treat you when you guys go out. So that's how I like to, you know, enjoy it. Maybe at the end of the meal, I'll say like, yeah, like I do reviews or, you know, that kind of thing. But I let the meal kind of like speak for itself before I get to that point. So that's kind of a thing with me that I hate like when they treat you that way. So that's all I have to say about that. But with that being said, I want to try new places. I want to go to new things. But with that being said, I pay for these meals on my own, so you're not going to get inundated with a gigantic smorgasbord of food. You're probably going to get a signature cocktails of theirs. You're also going to probably see an entree, maybe an appetizer or dessert, and then maybe another cocktail. And then obviously what the restaurant looks like or the lounge or bar looks like. Obviously, I like to go to cocktail bars, so you guys will get a lot of those. Restaurants, I'll try to go to more of. Because again, I want to showcase more of that side of Las Vegas. Do I go to the Strip a lot? Yes, because that's where I like to hang out. And that's honestly where you guys are probably going to go when you come to Las Vegas. I know I have a lot of local listeners that listen to the podcast, which love you guys for listening. And I'll do like local things as well, but I am really trying to focus on people who will be coming to Las Vegas and will realistically be on the Las Vegas Strip because that's where a lot of the hotels are. Will I go downtown? Every so often, yes. So I'll try to hit those places, make sure that we're showcasing the food, the drinks, the atmosphere. And I'm not like a food critic. I'm definitely more of like an atmosphere and vibes person and how this place makes me feel. Sometimes like food is not great, but the vibes are awesome. Like the food is decent. The vibes are awesome. A case in point is Delilah's. I don't think Delilah's food is like out of this world or blowing anybody off like the screen, but the vibes there are immaculate. So yes, I think it's one of the best places in town in terms of vibes. Obviously, if you're going for food, it's a totally different story. So those are a couple of things that I want to sort of outline as I talk about this. So with that being said of what our direction is going towards, the new video that we will be showcasing on our Instagram and TikTok page, Concierge Confidential _LV for Instagram, and then at Keys to Vegas on TikTok, will be Hard Shake, which is at the Waldorf-Astoria, which I actually really liked. So I really enjoyed Hard Shake, which we'll start this off with like a review of Hard Shake. Hard Shake is on the 23rd floor of the Waldorf-Astoria, rebranded. It actually used to be like the Sky Bar or had another like crazy name. And they've redone it. They've also like totally redone that entire floor. So when you go to Waldorf-Astoria, you have to go through their elevator at the bottom, takes you to the 23rd floor. And that actually used to be their lobby for the hotel. So you'd actually walk in on that floor, and then you would have like this big, beautiful front desk that had the view of the strip behind them. And it was showstopper. But I think it was really smart of the new owners, which Waldorf-Astoria now, I think it's a Hilton Rewards company or Hilton Rewards brand. They ended up turning that into, they opened up the space like completely. And they actually ended up turning it into a very large lounge space, which they still use for like high tea. And over to the left, they have this very like old school, like 1950s style, New York style cocktail bar. And it's called the Peacock Lounge. And what I love about it, and this is like a little note that is very me coded, so depending on your level of like how much you care about this stuff, they have their cocktails all named after old movies, which I absolutely am a sucker for. I love that shit. Like, if you want me to come to your bar, do that, because I will come. But also the cocktails are very well made. It feels like a high-end spot, which it is. It's a Waldorf-Astoria. And it all sort of meets the level of the property. And I think that's what's really important. Like, if you go someplace, of course, I love high-end everything. Like, I love high-end bars, high-end lounges, high-end, like, feel. But, like, sometimes you don't want that. Like, sometimes you want to go to Excalibur and go to their new tiki bar and just, like, have a Mai Tai. Who cares? But you want to meet your public at what they're expecting. And I definitely think that that place does that. And I think this is actually one of those things about Las Vegas currently. And I think hospitality, there was actually like a content creator that came up, like, sort of broke it down, is that the problem isn't luxury class or lower class or, budget friendly. It really is like the middle class is sort of like where the issue is in terms of hospitality, because the pricing for things has gotten so expensive to deliver that very like higher mid-budget range is actually much harder to hit. So people are much more often going to save money to do like one big luxury trip than to save money and do like 2 or 3 like mid-budget trips. So I think that's where the problem is. But with that being said, back to the like review. Loved the Peacock Lounge. That's usually open during the daytime before Hardshake opens, which I've looked at the hours, and on the weekdays, I think it says they open at 6. Check that, just because it's been really weird. Every time I go there, like, they have like weird times, but online it says it's open much longer than that, but whatever. Just go after 5:00 and you'll be safe. So I ended up going. It was supposed to be for a reservation at 7. I knew that like it wasn't going to be busy, so I showed up a little bit earlier, around 6:30, and said I had a reservation. So when I go into Hardshake, it's a beautiful room. It's very open. It's one of the few places on the Strip that you can actually get a view looking north and south. So it's wonderful in that regard. It's also low enough where you still feel like you're part of the city. I actually did a Substack on this with best views in town, and one of them, I ranked Skyfall like number 1 just because I hadn't been to Hardshake in a minute. But I'd been there when it was like the old property. But the newer look to it is awesome. It feels very chic, very modern. They used to have like this little room where they would go make the cocktails, which like really defeated the purpose of being in a cocktail lounge. And they've redone the bar. They have 2 TVs now. So that's actually really nice. I didn't get to watch the TVs because I was sat at a table, which I'm sure I could have asked for the bar tops. And I usually do like to sit at bar tops, but seeing that this was for you guys and the content, and I did a video, I thought it'd be better to seat next to the window. So I ended up it was cool because I walked in and then she was trying to seat me in certain places. And as I was about to sit at a high top area, 2 people left the seats right by the window, and she's like, "Oh, do you want to sit here?" And ended up sitting right next to the window looking on the north end of the Strip, which is the money shot. I went myself. I do not like sitting at tables by myself. I will go to the movies by myself. I will eat at bars by myself. It is honestly one of the weirdest things for me to sit at a lounge or a regular dining table by myself. It was so awkward. I was so bored because you can't really people watch there because you're out there, you're like looking at the view. And honestly, if you've seen the view before, it's actually not exciting if you're just looking at the view with nobody to talk to. So it's great if you go there with somebody and you can talk, and then look at the view, because the view is spectacular of the Las Vegas Strip. It absolutely is awesome. So I had a lot of time to look at my phone that had like 0 bars, which, case in point, make sure you connect to their Wi-Fi, because the Wi-Fi is god awful up there if you're not connected. So do the one for Hilton Lobby, and it's like free 24-hour access, which is all you need. So the food itself and the drinks themselves are very expensive. when I say very expensive, let me rewind that. I would say that the drinks are pretty comparable to like high-end lounges on the Las Vegas Strip. They do have some cocktails that you have to like be careful that you're like looking at the prices. And as I'm learning new cocktails, they had like a Macallan 15, which is Scotch, which was essentially a rusty nail from what I saw because I've learned, and it was $55. We did not get that because that's what I really want. That's actually what I wanted, but we're not paying $55 for a cocktail. So no, thank you. But I ended up getting, this is another thing I want to do more with you guys. I will try to get as many signature cocktails as possible because those are the pretty ones. The ones that I like, which are old fashions and that sort of thing, they're not very pretty to look at or photograph. So I will do my best when I'm ever doing content. I will try to do the signature cocktails because that is what they're known for. So I will try to do more of those. So with that being said, looked at the menu. Nice menu, good selection of drinks. They definitely have a lot more. This happens. It's very chic. Is like gin-based cocktails, kind of classics that are like renamed. Like they had a Vespa Martini, but it was not named a Vespa. I think it was called a Vantage Point or something of that nature. And then they also had a Rusty Nail, which was not named that. It was a twist on something else. And then they also had they had a couple other things that were a little bit different. So they're definitely going for the very chic crowd when it comes to cocktails. So I ended up starting off with the 23 degree latitude, which was sort of their play on a Mai Tai. It had like it had like pineapple in it. It was very orange, which was a very pleasant color to look at and photograph. And it came with a big giant orange, which my dad would have ate right away. It was good. It was very like fruity. It wasn't sweet. Not sweet at all. It was much more fruity, citrusy taste, if that makes any sense to those of you out there. So much more fruity citrus than it was sweet. So it was actually really good. Like if you're going to be there in the daytime or you're here in the summer, I think that would be a very popular cocktail. It's a little bit too much fruit for me, like too much fruit juice. So it took a little bit more for it to go down for me personally. But I think if you're into that type of cocktail, it's definitely different for sure. And with that being said, I had to eat something because they had lots of food there. So I was thinking of doing like their Wagyu sliders, which did look good. And they actually have a very large menu in terms of small plates. Definitely more of a thing you go to like share or like do like pre-dinner bites depending on what you're eating. They have like charcuterie, they have Palms puree, they have truffle French fries, bunch of stuff like that. Or you can do like a whole dinner there if you want to. But like the dinner would end up being like like a really expensive tapas style. But I did look down the menu and I was very much in the mood for their chicken lollipops, which if you go check out the video, are quite good. It comes with like 6 or 7 of them, and they're basically, they're shaved down, drumsticks, and they're very small. They're like wings. They're actually wings, and they're very good. It comes with mild or hot, and I got the mild one, and the ranch dressing is like just so smooth. It was really delicious. The presentation was kind of weird for the like vegetables, but who cares? But that was actually quite good. And then, so I had those. And then I wanted to have one more cocktail. I usually try to get at least 2 cocktails to make it, worth it. So I ended up getting their Dragon's Treasure, which I think I'd seen before, but I was like, I have to get this again. And there are 2 options. You can get one for single or one for double because it's presented with 2 cocktail glasses. So they want to do the 2, but I was alone. So I only got 1 cocktail. So I ended up getting the Dragon Treasure, which came with Kimono Rosa, I think is what it was. Kimono Rosa, whatever that is. And then mezcal, and then also had ginger liqueur. Totally upfront with you guys. To start, I do not like mezcal, and I do not like ginger. So I did this just for you guys. Because it would also look cool on camera, because that happens all the time. It was fine. I would say if you are a fan of things that are smoked or mezcal, this is definitely the cocktail for you. It was a little bit too smoky and bitter for my taste, but it was fine. It was good for the video. But it's really fun if you want to have sort of a show-stopping moment. They bring it out in like a giant, like this like little treasure chest. They open it up, and then all of the smoke comes out. So that's always fun. It's great for the video, of course, but it was cool. I wouldn't order it again because, I've had it once already. And I don't like mezcal. I try to give it a chance. It's definitely like the smokiest when you get it right out of the treasure chest. But the smoke does kind of like whisk away, and you just have like the natural smokiness from the mezcal itself. Honestly, I didn't even finish it all. I got about halfway and I was like, I'm good. I gotta dip. But they had a bunch of other cocktails that I really would have tried. Like they had this thing that had Empress Gin, which whenever you see Empress Gin, just for those of you out there in the world, Empress Gin usually means that the drink is going to be purple. So I really wanted to try that. It does have kind of like a weird sort of juicy taste for some reason. Like when you do Empress Gin, it's supposed to be like botanical and floral, but I don't know. It just ends up tasting weird to me. But I would have tried it. I would have rather tried that than the mezcal thing, because I enjoy gin, and that's, gin in a cocktail is great. So I didn't get that. They also had a wonderful cocktail that looked like a Vespa to me. Whenever you see Lillet, that's always sort of like a sign. But if you want to know like the bases of a Vespa martini, which if you've ever seen the movie Casino Royale, that's the cocktail that he makes. And it usually, the three big components are usually... they're usually vodka, gin, and then Lillet Blanc. That's when you know that's a Vespa. They didn't call it that, but that's essentially what it's going to be to the untrained eye. So overall, beautiful view. They did not have a time limit, which I was really happy that they didn't. I think it's going to show up on your reservation that you do, but don't have a time limit. They were also very classy. When I was sitting down, different lady walked in. So I got walked in by the hostess. Very nice. And then the waitress came up. She said, "Hello, Mr. Ortega," which of course it's on the reservation, but it's a nice touch. Just do it. For those of you in hospitality, if you know the name of the person, why don't you just say their name? Just say, "Hello, Mr. Ortega." That makes you feel so good. It's one of those crazy like hospitality things that you learn in school, UNLV, that just any association or empathy or connection or ownership, that's ownership, is going to take you so far just by saying someone's last name. It's the absolute smallest thing. And again, make it not obvious the way that MGM does their, 3-point plan, which you had. This was a thing back in the my hospitality days. They wanted you to say the guest's name in a single interaction a minimum of 3 times. They say, "Oh, thank you so much, Mr. Ortega. It's so nice to see you, back at our hotel, Mr. Ortega. Is there anything else I can help you with, Mr. Ortega?" That's how they would do it. And like front desk agents got in trouble the most because they would try to hit like all these. There's like 25 points you're trying to hit. It's like to be like a Forbes 5-star property. And it felt super inauthentic. But if you can ring it in just at the beginning, like, "Hello, Mr. Ortega," beautiful way to start the interaction. I love it. So overall, classy joint, would be fantastic at sunset. Sunsets, you have to sort of plan to when you're here. But overall, Hard Shake is one of my favorite bars with a view in Las Vegas this year. It's going to be very hard to top it because it's so great. But I did get a message. From somebody recently. I want to find it, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it quickly. But they were looking for a place with a view. That is the one lounge that I would say is probably the best for a view in town. So highly recommend that. So as I move on to 2026, I know that's a long review of a place that I went to, but I really wanted to tell you guys about it. So moving on to sort of what we're trying to do, or what I think is going to happen going forward, it does look like there is the new show is implemented at the Mayfair Supper Club. That used to be one of like a really big favorite of mine. I really love the old show. Not as much as, I like, Delilah's. But It was one of the first places in Vegas, in this century, to do sort of music and a show. It definitely felt a little bit more classy at the beginning when they had the music and the live band, the live singing, the wonderful performers. It felt, and then once it got like towards the end, it felt a little bit more bachelorette party-ish, but still the songs were fantastic. When they would do like Purple Rain or Creep, those were awesome renditions of those songs, and I love to sit there and just watch it. Very classic menu, very like old school Vegas. Some may call it dated, and I guess it is because they are changing the menu at Mayfair Supper Club, which it looks much more like, what's what I'm looking for? It looks much more like a circus than it used to be, and that also goes for the entertainment. The entertainment is definitely leaning more. It's definitely leaning more like Super Frico, where it has sort of like these outlandish, crazy performers doing like wild circus type acts on stage. And I don't know. From what I've seen online, I don't really dig it because that feels like what are we doing? Like, it doesn't feel classy anymore. It feels like a joke, to be honest. To be completely frank, just to be real with you guys. And they've also changed the menu. It has like this weird dessert where you cut off a rose and it becomes the centerpiece of the thing. It's great theater, but like as an experience, if I was here in Vegas and I'm like, you know what, I want to have an old school like Rat Pack style night out. I want to feel like it was like in the 60s. It wouldn't feel like that. It would feel very much like a cheap version of what that was meant to be. And I'm predicting, very sadly, and I don't want it to happen, but in the direction that it's going, I'm predicting that Mayfair Supper Club will close by 2027. So I would say that there's going to be a new property, a new concept for Mayfair Supper Club by the end of 2027, meaning that they're going to put like a steakhouse in there or a lounge or just like an open, what I think would be awesome there. And I think it was there when it first opened, is going to be something like open floor plan that you can see from like the casino and just like be like a really big bar and like lounge seating, which they're going to probably charge like per the hour. And then have like a bandstand with like performers, like an old school. When I was watching like Ocean's 11, the original one with Frank Sinatra, and like what happened to like these open area lounge acts? Like we need to bring that back. It's just such a great standard that you can like I want to say think like the Encore Lounge. I think it's not called Overlook. But it's the lounge that actually sits in front of like the pool area at Encore, and it's where they have like dueling pianos, which is cool. And they just have like these two big bar sets like on either side, and you kind of like go down into the thing. I think that would work perfect for it there. You have the beautiful, it's just a wonderful backdrop of the Las Vegas Strip, and then like the Eiffel Tower, and of course the fountains. Then you could just have like the glass up that people could look out at. Then like off to the corner, you have the lounge acts with a singer, maybe like a 3-piece band, so guitar, drums, and like a bass or something, or piano. I'm sorry, and I think that would be great. I think that would actually be awesome. Of course, they probably won't do it because they want something that's going to make not a little bit of money. They want it to make a lot of money, and they'll probably put another restaurant in there. So who knows what kind of restaurant they want to put in there, but I do think that the Mayfair Supper Club, from the vibes that I get, will not be here in 2027. Really, really sorry to say that, but that's how I feel. Another concept that I think will become very, very popular this year in 2026 will be Indian cuisine. I think Indian cuisine is definitely on the rise, of course. I've said this sort of a couple times, but since they put in the new Michelin star restaurant at Aria, is it Jimkaya? Jimkaya. We're going to go with that one until I figure out how to pronounce it. But that looks like it's become a super success. And I mean, it's still early, but people love Indian cuisine. Like English people love Indian cuisine. Las Vegans love Indian cuisine as well. I don't, but I know like kind of where the money goes, especially trends wise. Like, man, the way that I used to look at it when I was a big bus tour guide, because we used to like one of our stops was next to like a fast food Indian restaurant. You kind of can catch trends and you're like, you know what we're missing here is one of these. And whenever you can figure out what the city or what the area is missing and you're the first one, that can be very profitable. So they're the first one. They're the first high-end Michelin one. And then we're going to start getting a lot more sort of like mid-tier ones, which I think is going to go into, you know, a lot of these spaces that become vacant. Same thing that happens with like Mediterranean cuisine last year. Like that, like a lot of like French Riviera, Mediterranean, Greek, a lot of that cuisine became very popular last year. So you got a lot of Mediterranean restaurants. We've obviously hit the tulip bubble or the tulip mania version of that because so many of them have now closed. I mean, they had the restaurant where Boa Steakhouse used to be. That was, you know, Greek or Mediterranean cuisine. Ha Salon opened below it. That place closed. Same thing with, my goodness, Cathedral, which that was a beautiful restaurant, which was over at Aria. And is that where the new Indian place is? I haven't walked inside. I haven't walked past it. But Cathedral, beautiful spot. It was just like way too expensive. And people didn't want to go in. But it was honestly one of the most beautiful restaurants I've ever been inside of. Like, it makes me kind of sad that it's closed now. But it was one of the restaurants that, like, when I walked in, I said, oh my God, this place is beautiful. Another one that I just thought of that I think is going to be closing, so maybe go there before, you know, it does, is Stanton Social, which is located inside of Caesar's Palace. Stanton Social is right next to the Sportsbook. I knew there was a change to it. Because it was kind of weird because it was kept popping up on my Instagram that it was Stanton Social Prime, which usually insinuates steak and, you know, steakhouse cuisine. Then I started seeing that it was called Stanton Social Italian, which that's never a good sign. That means there's an oversaturation in the market for that cuisine. So they change it. And who knows if it's any good, but it's never good when they start changing their names. That's not great. Or rebranding in Vegas. You never want to rebrand. In Vegas, I would say. Rebranding is good sometimes. Like, what's rebranding? It's the Cromwell. The Cromwell is rebranding to the Vanderpump Hotel. Whatever. But for restaurants, typically it's not a good sign. I think once they opened, what's the name of it? Peter Luger's at Caesars. That was a bad sign for Stanton Social. I actually know a cocktail waitress. I actually know a bartender. She was at Stanton Social. Then she went to Peter Luger's. And then she went to Delilah's. So it's so funny. Like, we just kind of hit each other in all those moments. And I think she had a kid in between all of that. I think her name was also a name that I know. I was going to say it, but I don't want to, put it out there. But yeah, I don't think Stanton Social is going to make it, unfortunately. And again, I'm not like an economist. I don't know anything. I just vibes. And you kind of know when things are like stale or kind of on their way out. And that feels like that one might be on its way out. So those are my predictions for 2026. It's only a few. We hit the 30-minute mark here so quickly, which I don't want to make these go super long, but long review for the place I just went to. I'm going to try to go to more places, a lot more local places for you guys as well. But I will definitely try doing that a lot more going forward. So welcome back, everybody. Really hope that you guys have a happy new year and all the best going forward. Hopefully we'll see you sometime later this week with a new episode of Concierge Confidential. So if you're here for CES, which is this week as well, be safe. When you're out in town, check that when to spot a hooker episode, which was a couple episodes ago, but I think it was one of my best ones. I think it's one of my most insightful, my most fun. Make sure you check out the How to Spot a Prostitute, one of my favorite episodes. And make sure you check out our new video out on our socials, concertsconfidential_LV on Instagram and at Keys to Vegas on TikTok, of our review of and how to get to hard shake at the Waldorf-Astoria. So if you see me out in town, come up and say hello, but remember, keep it confidential.